Welcome to Louisiana Heart Beats. I'm Sudie Landry, and with me today is a good friend of mine who's also a upcoming author. He's already known to be teaching. He's a cartoonist. He's done journalism. My goodness, what can I say? Mel LeCompte Jr., welcome to the show.
Oh, great to be here again.
Well, I want people to know that you have a really special sense of humor, and it comes out in your books. And the first time that I met you was at the local Writers Guild of Acadiana, and you were also in the process of your first book, which is The Ice Cream Cow, and I love it. You say The Cow That Doesn't Move, and it's wonderful. And now he's on his, second book?
Second children's book.
Children's
I have one
book.
for big people out there. Don't forget Sharpen Iron.
There you go. So you can go into details about maybe Sharpen Iron before we get into The Terrible Turtle. What do you think?
Sure. If you want to talk about Sharpen Iron first.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I tell you what, that book still has legs on it. It came out in 2010, and I'm still scheduling book signings for it over the summer. It is a great Cajun, true-to-life faith and football tale. If you like what is it, Facing the Giants?
Yes.
Stories like that. Picture a good old Christian football tale, just smack right dab in the middle of Louisiana, right there in Ville. A wonderful game that went on for 12 years or so. Blessed by the Pope, awarded by Tony Dungy, featured on NFL films. Just the game itself was a phenomenon that tied the town together. And in fact, the actual Tea Cotton Bowl makes a little bit of a reappearance in my children's book, so maybe future generations can learn about it.
Well, Mel, I kind of didn't really know I was going to ask that question right there, but it's because there's such a difference in the types of books that you're writing. But I can tell you, when it comes to the children, I've seen you perform your story, and I've seen the interaction that you do and you have, and you just really, I think, have found your calling. It's have fun and write stories for children. And so, as a teacher, okay, how did this all start? What got you started in writing children's stories at this time?
It was a kind of a long and winding story, but basically, I was a poor school teacher. And the Daily World in Opelousas, they were looking for sports writers at the time. And I just happened to write a letter about teachers' concerns and concerns for the educators of the area. And next thing I know, I get a call from then sports editor Herman Fuselier.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
Herman is like, man, we got some writing positions open. Are you interested? I'm like, sure, why not? Who doesn't need the cash, especially if you're school teaching?
There you go, I know.
And from there, it was a wonderful 3-year journey with them. I was able to move that talent on to the Ville Platte Gazette, a couple of articles for the Daily Advertiser, 008 magazine. There was a sports magazine called Sports Rap. And the Daily World, it lasted for 3 years, and I wish it could have lasted forever. I had a complete blast there. But I was so fortunate that led me to other situations. Now, with the Daily World, I was interested in editorial cartooning. And Harlan Kurgan was the editor back then. And I tapped him on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, Harlan, can I try editorial cartoon? He looked at me and he's like, look, we have enough national stuff, because every week they would get a pile about as thick as a phone book of editorial cartoons they could use. But it was all national stuff from the syndicates. He's like, come up with something local, and we'll see if we could use it. And I did it. And it was the worst drawing you ever did see. It was done up in pencil. I wasn't used to scanning procedures or how to use computers to get that just right look and edit out my mistakes. So he ran it. And I'm like, oh, God, let us never speak of this again. Well, 3 weeks later, I'm there. He's like, hey, Mel, when you going to do us another one? And I was like, oh, okay. And I kind of honed my talent through the editorial cartoons. And then I was fortunate enough, I won 3 Louisiana Press Awards for the cartoons. I'm like, maybe I got some here. Because you always criticize your work and over-criticize it. But when you see a few awards coming in and your boss asking for more, you're kind of like, okay, maybe there's something there. So that was the cartooning part. Now with Ice Cream Cow, coming up with a story, I was actually playing in a goth band out of Baton Rouge at the
You?
time. Me, yes, a goth bass player. And my little girl, we was riding around one day, and she's like, Daddy, when you ever gonna write us a song? It's like, I'm too busy writing songs about druids, leave me alone. Well, about 2 weeks later, we're passing through a pasture somewhere between Church Point and Eunice. My daughter points out the window, she's like, Daddy, are those the cows that make ice cream? I'm like, ice cream? Cow?
Wow.
There's something that we could work with. And so I wrote her the song, and one day I was reading a book to a bunch of little school kids, a bunch of little kindergartners, and I was noticing the rhyme and the meter of the storybook. I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is nothing but a song that people broke up and stuck some pictures with. If I could write and if I could draw, let's see what happens when I pop them together. And yes, the Ice Cream Cow's been very, very good to me. We have a mascot now.
Ooh.
I'm bringing in some new talent to round out the Mel and the Moo Doggies entertainment crew. We've been around to libraries, summer camps, parties.
So if anybody's interested in even that part of your performance, they can always email you and ask that question and see what you're doing?
Of course.
All right, and it's up there on the screen as you talk. The reason I wanted to bring up the Ice Cream Cow also was because it kind of brought out another side of your personality. Like, even though it's a book for children, the kid in him comes out and he does little bitty pictures that adults would understand. And I thought that was very unique also. And I almost feel like it needs to be in the book. Look for them, That is neat. That's your personality.
Well,
You found a way to humor yourself, entertain other people, and still create some really cute stories.
and I kind of credit that to The Simpsons. When The Simpsons first came out, the TV critics didn't know what to make of it. And then once they finally got a hold on it, they said, well, you know what? The kids in the house are laughing at one set of jokes. The adults in the house are laughing at another, and it brings them together. So yeah, when I can throw in a little bit of twisted humor that maybe only the adults could get. And look, when you have little kids and you bring the same storybook to them 20, 30, 40, 60 times in the same week, you get bored. So I want to give the adults a reason to stay awake.
So anyone that hasn't read this book to your child yet, it's about the cow that doesn't moo. And you really will find a very interesting ending on that. And I'm not giving the ending away. So now you've come up with another book, Tboy and the Terrible Turtle. You want to give us a brief idea of what this book is about and how it came about?
How it came about? I remember a long time ago when I was just a youngster, my dad would take us to vacation everywhere. But I didn't know too much about my state, first of all. I was a boy who grew up in the New Orleans suburbs, on the West Bank, much less. And all I knew was there's the city of New Orleans, there's the city of Baton Rouge, where you didn't go nor speak of because our household was Tulane fans, and that was where LSU lived. And other than that, you had a short road to Mississippi and a long road to Texas. And that's all I knew of my state.
Wow.
And
Sounds like me. Go ahead.
when it came time for me to pick a college, I wanted to go away from the parents. I want to be the big boy, go away from home, but not too far from home. You needed money and clothes washed every other weekend. Well, I was offered a scholarship to Northwestern State up in Natchitoches. And then just driving, you had to drive through the city of New Orleans, drive through the city of Baton Rouge, kind of nick that little Acadian triangle, get a little bit of flair for Cajun country, move up to North Louisiana, which I called above the Mason Bunkie lawn, because once you got past Bunkie, the churches changed, the food changed, the music changed, your teams changed. It was no longer Saints territory, it was Dallas Cowboys. And I was like, wow, this is a side that I've never seen, I've never heard of.
Really ventured out, huh?
Oh yeah, I just soaked up the culture there. I loved it so much. Well, moved back home for a little bit, and don't you know it, married a Cajun woman. So
Ultimate.
with that, I moved to this area. I lived Prairie Rome, Eunice, Opelousas, a bunch of those little small towns around here. Lived here for 20 years, just soaking up that side of the culture. And fate had me return to New Orleans about 2 years ago, but I'm always back visiting here, relatives,
In
and
Lafayette,
just
yes.
for the culture and all. And I also found myself visiting North Louisiana because I love it up there. And there's just so much, each little part of the state you go, it's so different.
It is.
And I kind of wanted to put that in one book. Another thing, when my dad took us on vacations, my sister, when she was in school, got a little book off of Scholastic or whatever, and it was trivia facts about the presidents. And while we were on vacation, we kept that book in car and we kept reading these little trivia facts, these little tidbits that nobody ever really knew about presidents. And we had the best time family-wise. Well, Tboy and the Terrible Turtle. Tboy, let's see how the story starts off. Yes, Tboy was just a Louisiana kid, one with the terrible turtle that ran away. Oh, yes, he did. And that turtle ran all the way across the state. So as Tboy goes to find him, he learns about every little city along the way. And I've included 30-something cities and towns in the book.
What?
Everything from New Orleans and Baton Rouge down to little old Ida, which has like 700 residents in its population. But if I found a town and there was something interesting in it, oh yes, I had to stick it in. For example, bet you never guessed the importance of Tallulah, little old town in northeast Louisiana.
No, what?
First indoor shopping mall in the nation. Yes, we had
Wow.
it here in Louisiana. And let's see, we got places like Monroe. I put Monroe in there, and that would be easy to talk about the college there or talk about Duck Dynasty, but I dug a little deeper. They have the Beadenhorn Museum out there. And I know what you're thinking. What in the world's a Beadenhorn, right?
Right.
Well, Joseph Beadenhorn, he was a pharmacist who had a Coca-Cola fountain in his pharmacy and decided maybe I could sell a little bit more if I put this in bottles. So he was the guy who invented the idea of putting Coke in bottles.
Wow.
He was also a big-time Christian and a Bible collector. And one of the things he collected was a page out of the Gutenberg Bible, the first Bible, the first printed book in the world.
What?
And in that museum, in the Beadenhorn Museum, you get to see the first Coca-Cola bottles ever and a page from the first printed book, the first
Wow.
printed Bible ever. And yeah, we got little things like that going all over the state. And I want people to notice, I mean, even if you're just passing through every little one of those green signs with the town's name, there's a meaning behind it. And there's something wonderful
Okay,
going on.
so Mel, you're not only entertaining us, you're also educating us. That must come from that teacher side of you, huh? What did you teach, or what do you teach? Your education.
I teach, I have to say now, where I'm at, I teach some of the best kids in the world. Usually I have a sarcastic comment when people say, what do you teach? But I really had a great group of kids where I teach at, which is Victory Christian out in Metairie. I started off certified social studies and English teacher. Well, I got to teach social studies for that first half of a year. And then they switched me to English, and then I wound up teaching in little rural schools where you kind of taught what was around. Well, I got the job at Victory Christian, and it was in math, and that was, talk about some prayers.
You need it, huh?
Oh, yes, but they set me up, and they're like, hey, we also have a Louisiana history class open. Are you interested? And I'm like, am I? Louisiana history, that's one of my true loves. In fact, there's a book that I was working on that unfortunately I never had time to complete. It was a book on politics, and among the politicians I got to interview was Edwin Edwards.
Okay.
And that gentleman, I will say gentleman, invited me into his home, and where some other lesser politicians, you had to go through layers and layers and still not get the interview, and some people even knew personally didn't want to interview, he was the most cordial, open person. And then once I interviewed him, I felt, you know, kind of like, how can I put that? My status got bumped up a little bit. You know, I sat in this gentleman's home.
You still have the notes to that?
Oh, I
Once Upon a
still
Time?
have the notes.
It's never too late.
I still have the recordings too. So, oh
Wow,
yes.
great.
So after that, I truly truly became almost obsessed with doing something. If I couldn't write the big Louisiana politics book, I could draw a couple of turtle pictures.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's very interesting, and now it makes more sense why you did put inside of your books these things. That's interesting. I love it. I love it. So anyway, we got Timmy. Was that his name?
Uh,
I want to call him the turtle.
oh,
Okay.
the turtle's full name, let's see, Tboy is the boy's name.
I want
and
to say Timmy, but I knew it wasn't right. Tboy, which means in French what?
the small boy.
That's right. Okay.
So yes, I had to name Tboy.
See, Tboy.
And I want people to realize that Tboy is a Louisiana kid, not a New Orleans kid. He's a Louisiana kid. He's in camo. He's got his shrimp boots on through his whole adventure. That's the kind of kids I remember seeing once I left the New Orleans area. So
There you go.
that was my Louisiana kid. Now, let's see. The turtle's name is Chapatulus Thibodeau Terrapin III.
T-Boy, you got it. I would never be able to remember that name.
That's why I call him the Terrible Turtle.
Terrible Turtle, that's right.
A
That's
whole lot
right.
easier.
Okay, so let's talk about the artwork on the front of this book.
Okay, well,
This is your artwork, right?
the artwork, I know you can see in the background, I'm going to try to hold it up also in case we're blocking some of what's going on there.
Yeah.
But with the cover, there are a few of the items that Terrible Turtle, we won't say he stole, but he collected
You collected?
along
Okay.
the way. He's got a king cake there. And even my art, I tried to do things that are almost like hidden messages. This king cake, the end pieces have candy seeds on them and a cherry on top.
I see that.
Reason being, growing up in New Orleans, Mackenzie's Bakery was the bakery. And if you got a king cake from Mackenzie's Bakery, you never wanted the piece with the candy seeds and the cherry because that's where the baby was guaranteed to be.
Okay.
And you didn't want to be the one going to beg your parents when you got home from school, hey, we need $20 in king cakes.
There you go.
So I did that, just in remembrance of Mackenzie. So we got the king cake there. We have the trophy from the tea cotton bowl.
I see that.
We have his little Mardi Gras stalk from New Orleans, the little crews that like to walk around. They hold the stalk of flowers, try and get kisses from the ladies.
Ooh.
And Tboy in this, not Tboy, but the Terrible Turtle in this book is kind of a ladies' man.
Oh, okay.
So readers will see it. We have the accordion there. We have a bag of rice from Crowley. We have a string of lights he stole from the Festival of Lights in Natchitoches.
He collected from them.
And
Okay.
the accordion, and there's a few other things. There's a bag with a schoolgirl skirt in it. You'll have to read to find out.
Oh, I guess so.
And there's a few things of interest I want to point out. Right there, that little thing right there above the stalk looks like an alien, but he is actually a spider, an alien spider from Mars.
Ooh, sounds
And-
like another book.
You have to be up really, really late at night dealing with insomnia to even try to start Googling why I put it in there. But let me explain to you why we have a spider from Mars in there.
Okay.
There was a singer, a British singer, by the name of David Jones. When his record company went to sign him, he could not use David Jones because of Davy Jones with the Monkees. So he needed to pick a stage name. Well,
Okay.
he picked a stage name. He studied Jim Bowie, who
Okay.
happened to be from Opelousas. So David Jones became David Bowie, or David Bowie, whose biggest album was Ziggy Stardust and the what? The Spiders from Mars.
Okay.
Now let me tell you, now every drawing in there goes that deep. We got a lot of them just sitting around eating boudin. But we do have a few in there that you're going to have to think about. Now, we have here a voodoo doll and a Bible, okay?
Big difference.
Yes. And when I was working on this book, my wife was like, well, this could be a good school book for kids. And I'm thinking, well, I got this voodoo doll, which goes along with a faith healer he meets. We all had the traiteurs long ago. And she has a voodoo doll and a crystal ball. And I'm thinking, if I try to market this to the Christian schools, that might not fly.
Yeah.
But we also have the Bible, because like I mentioned, you have the Beadenhorn Museum. There's
Yeah.
a scene where, while the Terrible Turtle's sneaking out of church, Tboy's in there singing. because it's an important part of how Tboy grew up. It's
Okay.
like, well, if I leave the Bible in, that's going to kind of hurt my standings with a lot of the public schools. I'd be paranoid about it. But then I thought about it. Am I writing the Christian schools, Louisiana? Am I writing the public schools, Louisiana? Or am I writing my Louisiana? And this is the Louisiana I grew up with. So yes, we got voodoo dolls. Yes, we got Bibles in churches. And anybody who wants to come to Tboy's party is welcome. And if it offends your sensibilities,
That's Louisiana.
you won't be the first one. Yes.
Okay, so with that said and everything, that's very interesting. That would be information like you just shared. I learned, even I didn't know, but I can relate because I'm looking at the picture as you're telling the story behind it. So you have the ice cream cow. Now you've got Tboy and the terrible turtle. And so what else is in the process in your mind that's so creative? What are you working on or thinking about working on soon?
I have a few that I'm really wanting to do. The problem is books are a much slower process than you imagine. I remember somebody asked me one time, how long did it take me to do the ice cream cow? I said it was a 3-month project that only took me 2 years.
I remember that answer
And
too.
in fact,
Yeah.
Tboy and the Terrible Turtle, I joke around even in the back notes of the book. I say it's the Chinese democracy of children's cultural geography books. And what I mean by that, Guns N' Roses, when they were the hugest band in the world,
Yes.
their record company threw them a ton of money. They said, we want your next project. And they kept saying, oh, it's coming. It's coming. And it took it 12 years for it to come out. In fact, Dr. Pepper even made a joke out of it. They said, if that album comes out this year, we're going to give everybody a coupon for free Dr. Pepper. That's how long it took. And Tboy, I don't owe everybody a Dr. Pepper, but maybe a bottled water. There's 3 things I would really like to get into. If I had all the time in the world, I'd be working on all 3 right now.
Okay.
I would like to do a Tboy and a Terrible Turtle book dealing more with Louisiana history, in specific, Jean Lafitte.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Louisiana's had our cast of characters.
Yes.
But Jean Lafitte is kind of like where it all started, where all our notoriety. And I would love to do one where the Terrible Turtle and Jean Lafitte try one-up each other, see who's the naughtiest.
Oh, wow.
I have that one. I have one I want to illustrate. It's from a friend of mine. She is probably one of the most humorous writers I've ever met.
Okay.
But all her stuff are little quips on Facebook, but she reminds me of the old school Irma Bombeck type.
Oh,
And
okay.
it lends itself to cartoons, so I really want to put cartoons to her quips, get that one out there. And then the last one I want to work on is a Ice Cream Cow Christmas special.
Oh, I love that. I love
And
that.
I'd really want to jump on that first, but the thing is, if it's not done and ready to go by September, October, you can't be out there on Groundhog Day trying to sell a Christmas book.
No, you're right.
So timing is of the essence if you're going to do a Christmas book like
Well,
that.
talk about timing. We're at the end of the show.
Already?
And I want to encourage anyone who has not read the Ice Cream Cow to be sure to be looking for Tboy and the Terrible Turtle. And if you're interested, you can always check out his email that's up there on the screen, and he'll let you know where he'll be doing some book signings. Until then, tune in every Tuesday night for 9 o'clock. It just might be you that we're showcasing, or Mel, or even another book being done by Mel.
See you again in 4 years.
See you again in 4 years. Until then, just remember, this is the place to be. If you have a story, we want to share it. We want to encourage all the people out there that think you have a story that you'd love to write. It's never too late to write. Even sometimes you got notes and somebody else will finish that book for you if you don't finish it yourself. Until then, I'm excited and to thank Mel LeCompte for coming in on our show. And Mel is someone who's also a member of the Writers Guild of Acadiana. He now is in the New Orleans area, and he's teaching, and he has a very unique sense of humor that is coming out in his books. So be sure to look forward to hearing more about Mel. Check him out on Facebook.
Facebook, the Terrible Turtle actually has his own Facebook page, Facebook.com/The Terrible Turtle.
Perfect.
All right.